I've been a Fundrise investor since 2015, and in this video, I'm going to break down what attracted me to the platform, an inside look at the actual performance of my account over that time, which has now grown to over 6 figures, and some of the pros and cons to consider before you invest. Now, important disclosure, Fundrise isn't paying me to make this video, but they do pay me if you sign up through my referral link. Opinions are my own, and don't consider this investment advice. That said, if you do find the information useful and choose to invest, I hope you'll consider using my link to support the channel at no extra cost to you. That's sidehustlenation.com/fundrise, and you'll also find it in the description below. So rewind the clock. 2015, I started building what I call my cash flow portfolio. This is a specific set of investments designed first and foremost to generate interest and dividends. My thinking was, okay, how can I get paid over and over again from work I do once? And by investing for cash flow, my theory was I could turn every quote unquote extra $1,000 I earned into $20 to $80 a year in truly passive income, theoretically forever. Eventually, the dream being to live off interest and dividends, right? So I diligently added to that cash flow portfolio month after month, month after month, year after year. And today it generates thousands of dollars a month. One component of that portfolio is commercial real estate through Fundrise. So background on Fundrise, started in 2012. Fundrise is one of the first and largest private real estate investment platforms, and they've started to add other asset classes as well. The stated goal of Fundrise is to make institutional quality investments accessible to everyday investors. Hey, that sounds good to me. And where similar sites have investment minimums of up to $25,000, you can get started on Fundrise for just $10. So how Fundrise works is they pool money together from investors like you and me to purchase a diversified and vetted portfolio of commercial and residential real estate. Those properties include apartment buildings, office buildings, retail centers, single-family developments, distribution warehouses, stuff like that. And so you invest in those through Fundrise e-REITs. Think of them as mini mutual funds for real estate. And Fundrise uses a so-called proprietary algorithm to identify and select these investment opportunities, because every tech company needs a proprietary algorithm, right? And then after they acquire them, they also actively manage the property. So as an investor, you don't have to do anything. And that hands-offness appealed to me as well. As an investor, you track your portfolio and performance through the online dashboard or through their app, and I'll give you a glimpse of mine in just a second. But the three main things that attracted me to Fundrise: number one, that draw of consistent cash flow. Real estate cash flow is pretty simple, rent minus expenses. I wanted to get me some of that. I wanted to add real estate exposure to my portfolio. Some experts recommend having up to 20% of your asset allocation in real estate. I had far less than that, so I wanted to add some without being a landlord. And number three is the company philosophy, which I can best describe as almost pessimistically optimistic, very cautiously optimistic, very conservative. The company doesn't go out and try and acquire every type of property for the sake of diversification. Instead, they focus on a few key or core strategies that they feel strongly about. Among those are last mile logistics facilities and Sunbelt residential properties. Those both made sense to me, especially compared to going out and buying shopping malls and office buildings in the age of e-commerce and remote work, right? So Fundrise's messaging was and still is tech-enabled, vetted real estate built for strong long-term returns. And I was just attracted to the level-headedness, that long-term view of it all. So I started with a $5,000 deposit to test the waters, and I've been adding to my account ever since. Today, you can get started with as little as $10, but let's take a look inside my actual account. So this is what you'll see once you log into your Fundrise account. This is mine. You can see the little stair steps on the chart. I started with my $5,000 investment in 2015, and the little stair steps are where I've added to that account over time. And combined with those deposits and the growth of the account, it's turned into a significant part of the portfolio. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit for you. A couple other sections of this dashboard to be aware of. The next is net returns, which breaks down the returns into the appreciation portion of the real estate and the dividend portion of the real estate. And you're going to see a lot more fluctuation on the appreciation side of things, like, big run up during the 2021 real estate boom, and a subsequent, write down, as the interest rates rose up. But the more important part for me is this dark brown portion, this really consistent dividend income over time. It's $1,000 a quarter, give or take. If we go into the portfolio piece, it breaks this down into growth, real estate, and income real estate with a pie chart of what you have under each thing. And there's a more detailed view of that if you hit the portfolio tab up top. So let's zoom out a little bit, and you can actually see what specific properties are included here. So 100 properties, 170 properties. You can see the types of stuff that they buy, like multifamily real estate, different single-family home communities, some multifamily home communities. See if we toggle through and see some of their industrial stuff. They're doing some building projects. There was some like logistics centers and stuff that they have in here too. Okay, so here's kind of like a industrial warehouse type of stuff that they buy. So you can see what is actually in your portfolio. On this tab, you can also see the net returns at 9.8% lifetime since 2015. And that breaks down. This portion was dividend. This portion was appreciation. This is how much we took in advisory fees. And Fundrise is adding some different asset types as well. So you'll be able to add those to your portfolio as those become available. Next up in the Invest tab, this is where you would go to make a one-time deposit. I just have mine set up on recurring auto invest, and they have this cool chart. I'm like, well, by the time you're 67 and this is how much your value is, hypothetical future account value. It's kind of fun to play with this toggle and this toggle to see how those numbers may change with this estimated math going on there. Next up, I want to show you the transactions tab. My beef here is I would love a filter. I just want to filter by dividends because it shows the auto invest, it shows the dividends from Q1, it shows the dividends from Q4. Now, last note here, if you want to withdraw your funds, this is a little bit tricky to find. So you have to go to, they kind of bury it. So you have to go to account settings, advanced options, and then they call it a redemption request. And they say, hey, we process these once a quarter, and there's a 60-day waiting period. This is one of the biggest drawbacks to Fundrise is the liquidity. You got to consider this long-term investment, and we reserve the right to suspend redemptions at any time. So just know what you're getting into in this case, but you can acknowledge and go proceed with your redemption request if you need that cash flow. Next up, some of the pros and cons of Fundrise. First up, there's the low minimum investment. You can get started with as little as $10. Fundrise is open to everyone, whereas some similar platforms are only open to accredited investors. There's low fees. Fundrise charges just 1% of your account value in fees every year. You get instant diversification, which is something that I like, not having to pick and choose deals, meaning your risk is spread around into a curated set of commercial properties instead of lumped all into one, where your fortunes rise and fall on the status of this one singular property, if that's the route you go. Healthy historical performance. Like I showed you, my account has earned 9.8% annualized, and less volatility because of their conservative strategy. Fundrise isn't hit as hard as public REITs during market downturns. Now, on the cons side, we've got that liquidity issue that we talked about, where if you need to pull out money from your account, you got to wait a quarter, and those redemptions may be suspended at any time. So definitely look at it as a long-term hold. You're not as diversified as you would be with a public REIT like Vanguard's VNQ, which gives you exposure to thousands of different properties. It's kind of a fund of funds of sort, where with Fundrise, you may only have a few dozen. So over the course of 8 years of investing there, I had 170 properties in my portfolio, not thousands and thousands that you might have with a public REIT. They've got a limited operational track record. Meaning they've only been around since 2012. They haven't seen a huge fluctuation of ups and downs in the real estate market, through boom times and bust times. It just, the platform isn't old enough to have that track record yet. And then lastly is this weaker upside. So they have guarded against downside volatility with this conservative approach, but that also means there's a trade-off on the upside. When times are really booming, you're going to have weaker performance because of that portfolio, because of that conservative strategy. Now, who should avoid Fundrise like the plague? Obviously, the platform is not a good fit for you if you need near-term liquidity, if you're the person who thinks the real estate market is due for a major correction, if you love the roller coaster ride of a publicly traded REIT, or if you prefer direct real estate investment, like buying houses for yourself. Maybe that's part of your strategy. So finally, some fun Fundrise stats to consider. First up, Fundrise is one of the 50 largest real estate private equity investors. That's pretty cool for a company that's only 10 years old. The company currently manages over $7 billion in property. Joining me are 2 million other investors on the platform. Fundrise was also named Best Real Estate Crowdfunding Site for Beginners by Investopedia and Best Real Estate Investing App by Business Insider. Now, hopefully this video shed some light on whether Fundrise makes sense to add to your own investment portfolio. If it does, I hope you'll consider using my direct referral link in the description below. Cheers.